Welcome to Beyond the Music, the podcast where we dive into the lives and stories of people who shaped the world of music. I am Lena.
And I am Karina. We're both classically trained singers, and this podcast is our chance to explore the fascinating intersections of music, history, and humanity.
In our previous episode, we talked about music under the influence. And today, since I am just back from accompanying some of my voice students to a German-wide youth competition, we're diving into the world of music competitions. Why they exist, how they shaped careers and even politics, and what they can and can't measure. Yes. So, when most people hear music competition, they imagine a stage, a jury, and somebody winning a prize. But competitions are more than trophies. They're gateways. They can launch careers, define reputations, and sometimes even shape what audiences think great music should sound like. And competitions aren't only classical, they range from international piano contests to big television shows and massive events like Eurovision. The interesting question is, what does a competition reward? Excellence, originality, stage presence, or something else? So, Karina and everyone listening, when you hear music competition, what comes to mind first? Pressure, excitement, opportunity, or something you don't trust?
Ooh. I'd say excitement. I mean, nothing compares to the excitement of being backstage. It's your turn next, and you're just ready to sing.
Really? For me, it's mostly pressure. So that's why I don't like competitions. I guess that's why I'm never successful with competitions.
It's really hard. I mean, you have to be very talented for our audience members, in a competition, at least a classical competition, you have to sing an aria. That could range between 2 minutes to maybe 6 minutes. It really depends on what you choose. But within that time, you have to create a scene. You have to create a circumstance. You literally have to bring the opera to life in that short amount of time. It's very challenging to do, especially if you are nervous.
Yeah. In classical music, competitions are often treated like the fastest route from unknown to internationally booked. So there's the pressure. There's even a global umbrella organization, the World Federation of International Music Competitions, founded in 1957 to set standards and connect major competitions internationally. Some of the most famous examples are the International Chopin Piano Competition in Warsaw, first held in 1927, and since 1955, it's held every 5 years. Then we have the Queen Elizabeth Competition in Brussels, founded in 1937, originally the Eugene Isai Competition, and it's renamed in the year of 1951 to the name we know today. And then we have another example, the International Tchaikovsky Competition, whose first edition took place in Moscow in 1958.
Wow, I never knew that.
These contests don't just test technical skills, they often demand huge programs, multiple rounds, and stamina under pressure. So, Karina, how do you handle yourself in a competition? I mean, I already said for me it's pressure. Do you have fun or kind of mixed emotions?
I like to stay in the fun route.
That's a good thing.
I mean, I like to keep my positivity, my brain space just on the joy of music, why I'm there in the first place.
That's really good.
Thanks.
I always try that, but it does not work that well.
It's hard. It's mentally exhausting.
Yeah, it is. So I kind of also glad that I'm too old for most competitions. So, here is it where it gets complicated. Competitions are trying to measure something that isn't fully measurable. Juries often evaluate technique like accuracy, control, or rhythm, interpretation like style, phrasing, or tempo choices, tone and sound concepts, stage presence, repertoire choices, and sometimes how memorable you are. But different jurors value different things. Some reward risk, others punish it. And that can shape an entire generation of performers, because young musicians start aiming for what wins, not what's truthful. A lot of competitions also face criticism about consistency, national bias, teacher-student networks, or how much career readiness matters compared to musical depth. So, Karina, do you think a competition can truly ever be fair? And to the listeners, would you rather a winner be technically perfect or emotionally unforgettable?
Oh, that's a really tough question. The thing is, music can't be measured. And it's based off of people's personal opinions. And everyone has their own opinions, so it's really hard for a competition to find the best one, but then what defines it to be the best? It's all personal opinions. At the end of the day, I go to the opera to be transported to a story. I think the perfect example for what I'm trying to say is Maria Callas. She was emotional. She was an actress. I want to feel that humanity on the stage. And that is what transports me into the story.
Yeah, and I mean, you can measure technique or something like that, but the interpretation of a piece is always different, and you like it or you don't.
Yeah, I mean, we all have our own various experiences.
Exactly.
I could interpret something completely different to how you interpret something. But that's what makes opera so exciting. Every time someone new sings it, it's bound to be a different interpretation.
Exactly. So I guess to a competition always being fair, it would be more or less a no, because there are different people sitting in the jury. So they cannot have the exact same mind.
Well, I think it's just really hard to measure it, because you can't measure it.
That's true. So let's zoom into the moment when music competitions stopped being just music and became international politics. Because during the Cold War, culture wasn't neutral. It was a battlefield, just a quieter one. In the 1950s, the world wasn't only competing with weapons, it was competing with prestige, science, sport, education, and especially art. Every success was treated like proof that one system was stronger, smarter, and more advanced. And that's the context in which the International Tchaikovsky Competition was created. It wasn't simply another contest for young musicians. It was also a public display of cultural power. In fact, even the competition's own historical description acknowledges that when it was being planned in the mid-1950s, it was considered politically important. So the intention wasn't hidden. Now, imagine the atmosphere. A packed hall, international press attention, the Soviet Union presenting its best training to the world. And then, in 1958, at the very first edition of this competition, an American pianist enters and captivates the audience. The pianist was Van Cliburn. I said that again. The pianist was Van Cliburn, just 23 years old. Accounts describe the public response as intense, not polite appreciation, but real enthusiasm. And here's the part that turned the competition into legend. The judges reportedly felt they needed approval from Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev before awarding first prize to a foreigner. The story is often told like this. He was asked whether the American was truly the best, and when told yes, he essentially said, then give them the prize. Just pause and feel how extraordinary this is. A competition result wasn't only a musical decision, it carried political risk. The winner could become a symbol whether he wanted the role or not. When Cliburn returned to the United States, he wasn't welcomed like a pianist who won a prize. He received a ticker tape parade in New York City.
Wow.
Something normally reserved for presidents, astronauts, and war heroes. And his recognition of Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1 became massively successful, astonishing for a classical release. So this one competition did several things at once. It crowned an artist, it created a media event, and it became a moment of symbolic connection across hostile borders. So, and I want to ask you and our listeners, when a competition winner becomes a political symbol, does that help the music or does it distort it?
Gosh, I don't know how to answer that one.
It's really hard, right? Because that does not happen that much, but it does happen now a few times with the Eurovision Song Contest because of the different countries attending. So it's now in the pop culture more, the political war kind of.
Well, I don't know. A saying comes to mind. Does music reflect life or does life... No, that's not it. Art reflects life or life reflects art. I think that's the saying.
Yeah. It's always hard. It's kind of like which came first, the egg or the hen. Yeah, it's really hard. Because suddenly you're not only listening to artistry, you're hearing national identity, ideology and narrative layered on top of the sound. So this is one of the clearest examples that competitions aren't just about ranking talent. In certain moments of history, they become mirrors of society, showing what the world is anxious about and what it hopes for. And the Cold War story is proof that music competitions can be instruments of rivalry and unexpected tools of connection. So, competitions aren't only about conservatories. One of the biggest music competitions in the world is Eurovision. Eurovision was created by the European Broadcasting Union after discussions in 1955 inspired by Italian song festivals. And the first contest took place in 1956 in Lugano, Switzerland. Eurovision describes its mission as bringing audiences and countries together and notes it has taken place every year since 1956. It's completely different competition ecosystem than classical. It's more about visual performance, identity and staging, songwriting and production, and public votes become the main part of the outcome. So, the question becomes, what is being judged? The voice, the song, the performance, or the moment? Which is kind of hard in that case, I think.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, yeah, they have, for the listeners who do not have never seen Eurovision, they are getting, every country is getting points like one part of the points is from a jury, and then another part of the points is like a public vote, and you can only vote for another country. You cannot vote for your own.
I
So
think
it's
that keeps it a bit more fair.
yeah, because okay, if you're living in I don't know, in another country, then you can vote for your own country because you have the phone number or the internet connection of that country. Um, so, but since not everyone is living in another country just for Eurovision, I think that's keeping it quite fair in that case. I mean, it's more than a public vote competition than like a qualified, just like business insiders judging someone, you know. So it's I like that the public can vote for it. Um, and sometimes I think it's really strange what the outcomes are, but it's always a fun thing to watch.
Yeah, and it brings the countries together in a positive way too.
Yeah, yeah, it does. But like I said, last year was quite controversial. Also, this one because of the allowed participating countries and what is happening in their countries at the moment. So just saying that. Okay, so here's the big tension. Competition can do two opposite things at the same time. On their best days, competitions discover artists, create opportunities, and give musicians an audience and network they might never reach otherwise. But on their worst days, competitions can push musicians into a kind of competition sound. Safe choices, polished perfection, and interpretations that avoid risk because risk feels dangerous when you're being ranked. And this is exactly where youth competitions are especially interesting, because not all of them are designed to crown the finished product. Many youth competitions are internationally structured as development stages, not final verdicts. So the goal isn't primarily to find the perfect musician, it's to help young people grow through the process, preparing, committing, performing under pressure, and learning how to handle feedback. Some youth events even include a festival-like atmosphere, workshop, masterclasses, performance opportunities, mentorship, and community. In other words, the competition isn't only the ranking, the competition is the experience of showing up and doing the work. And that changes what success can mean. Because for a young musician, the biggest victory isn't always a prize. Sometimes it's learning to practice constantly for months, stepping on a stage despite fear, recovering after a mistake without falling apart, finding out, or keeping your poker face, finding out
hard.
what pressure does to your body and your breathing, especially if you are a breathing instrument. Or play a breathing instrument, and realizing I can do hard things. In that sense, youth competitions can be less about proving you are already great and more about proving you are willing to become great through effort, resilience, and discipline. But we should also be honest, even youth competitions can create heavy pressure. Labels like winner and not winner can stick, even when the event is meant to be supportive. So the healthiest question may not be are competitions good or bad, but what kind of competition is it? Is it designed to select a product or to develop a person? If we can hold on to that perspective, competitions stop being only about ranking talent and start becoming what they can be at their best, a structured opportunity to grow.
Really well said.
What do you think a young musician should take away from a competition, even if they don't place?
I think that every young musician who shows up should be very proud of themselves because I personally think that's the hardest thing to do. They need to know that they are beautiful artists, no matter what happens. And I think we also need to celebrate our uniqueness and that we are all different and unique and beautiful in our own ways. And it needs to be celebrated. Oh. Yeah. I think it's also important for the audience to keep in mind that the performers are nervous. We are nervous. We're human. We have intense pressure on us. And the audiences, I think, need to celebrate that the person showed up. Hey, good for you. You stepped on that stage, and just to have that support. It means everything. It really does.
Yeah. After everything we've talked about, I think the healthiest way to think about competing is this. A competition is not a final verdict, it's a snapshot. A jury hears you on one day, in one hall, in one acoustic, with one instrument, one voice condition, one level of sleep, one mindset, one kind of adrenaline.
Yes.
That's not the full truth of an artist or a career and a person. It's bigger than a single result. And this is where the youth competition perspective becomes really powerful, because when competitions are framed as development, the question changes from did I win to what did I become through the work? If you're young, if you're mentoring someone young, the real value often lies in things like learning how to prepare consistently over weeks and months, discovering what pressure does to your breathing, focus, and memory, but practicing the skill of recovering after a mistake without falling apart, and performing even when you don't feel ready, and realizing that effort and identity are not the same thing. So instead of measuring success in one number, first prize, second prize, eliminated, I love the idea of measuring success in layers. Here are some healthier questions to carry with you into any competition, especially early in your development. So ask yourself those questions. Did I show up and do the work, even when it was hard? Did I learn something concrete that will make me better next month? Did I communicate something real, not just correct? Did I take at least one artistic risk, even a small one, that felt honest? Did I build a relationship, a connection, a future opportunity? Did I leave with more self-knowledge than I had before? Because sometimes not placing can still be a massive win if it teaches you how to handle pressure with dignity, how to keep going, and how to grow. And if you're listening as an audience member, remember that competitions often reward what is easiest to compare, not always what is deepest. Some artists bloom later, some winners disappear, some non-winners change the world. So I want to ask you, and I really mean this for musicians and non-musicians alike, what would it look like to treat competitions as milestones instead of verdicts? And have you ever lost something, a prize, a role, an opportunity, and later realized it gave you direction? I'll leave that question for everyone to think about for themselves. If we can hold on to that, competitions stop being only a system of ranking. They become what they can be at their best, a structured moment to test yourself, prove your commitment to growth, and step closer to who you want to become. So, I hope you enjoyed music competitions as much as we did. If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.
Next time, we'll delve into another fascinating chapter of music history. Until then, keep listening and discovering the stories beyond the music. See you next time.